right, today we're going to continue with our big idea of describing patterns can help us to solve problems and describe the world. Today our focus is going to be on representing patterns, the different ways that we can show patterns. Here is our first pattern. We can see that is a figure number and the number of counters in the figure. Figure 1 has 1 counter, figure 2 has 3, figure 3 has 5, and so on. And here they noticed an output to output rule. This is called the output, and we're looking from one output to the next output to the next output. And we can see it's increasing by 2, or the number of counters is increasing by 2. All right, and here we have one pattern, pattern 1. We can see figure number has 1 counter, figure number 2 has 3 counters, figure number 3 has 5 counters, and so on. Each figure does have 2 more counters than the figure before, and we can see they're being added in a predictable manner. 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. Always 1 on the end of each row. When you are making your own patterns, you always want to make the way that you add to that pattern predictable, and it should be the same each time. Another pattern that you could also draw for the very same numbers is this pattern number 2 here. Figure number 1 still has only 1 counter, figure number 2 still has 3 counters, and it's been added in a predictable way. We're adding each time 1 more to the bottom row here. So here we have 2 more counters added, 1 to each side. Again, 2 more counters, 1 to each side. Predictable how they're being added, and we still have the same number of counters in each figure number as we should according to the table. Now, I just drew our table in on the side here so we could look at it. If we wanted to use this to figure out a rule, we could look at our counters, and as we'd said, we'd notice that it was adding 2 each time and starting at 1. So starting at 1 and adding 2 each time. What could we do then to figure out what would happen for figure number 10 if we were starting at figure number 4? So we would have to continue our table all the way up to 10. So, knowing that we add 2 each time, it would be 9, it would be 11, 11 plus 2 is 13, 13 plus 2 is 15, 15 plus 2 is 17, 17 plus 2 is 19. So our 10th figure should have 19 counters in it. And depending on which figure pattern you were looking at, figure pattern 1's picture, sorry, thought I had pen on, figure pattern number 1 would end up looking like this, and for pattern number 2 would end up looking like this, but you can still see they've done it very predictably. They've added 1 each time to each end here, and 1 on each end here as well. So they've added 2 each time, but the way that they've done it when they've drawn their figures is very predictable. We know it's going to be 1 on each end every time. We know where to look for the new set of dots. All right, now it's your turn to practice. You get to use this table to create a picture. So you should have 4 figures drawn, and then also draw a rule to go, write a rule to go along with it. Remember, when you're drawing your picture, it should be predictable how you're adding the next number of counters or blocks for your figure. They do say blocks for figures here. Might be a good idea to use your grid paper to assist you with drawing these patterns. All right, so I was thinking, well, what could I draw that would have 4 to begin with, and then 3 more, because I noticed here it was 3 more each time. So I decided to go 4 blocks on the top, or on 4 blocks for 1 row, and then the top row above it is going to be 3 more, and then my third one is going to have another 3 more, so I'm going to have to draw my 4 again, my 3 on top, and then I'm going to do another 3 on top. And then for figure number 4, it would be the same. Again, I would have 4 on the bottom, adding 3 on top, adding another 3, and then adding another 3. And by doing this drawing of this pattern, we can easily see what the rule is going to be. Well, I added 3 new blocks each time, so that's going to be my rule. I'm adding 3, but it's important where I started. I started with 4. So my rule would be start at 4 and then add 3 each time. All right, now you get a chance to go ahead and try. You're going to be working on page 16 and 17, just numbers 1 and 4. Make sure you answer all parts of those questions because there's a fair bit there. You are representing patterns, so again, you're going to be drawing them. You're going to be using tables. You're going to possibly be using rules. Remember when you're drawing that it has to be predictable how you're adding to your pattern shapes. When you are finished, check your answers and of course show me before you move on. If you have any questions along the way, please remember to ask.